Oh, what a night it was. And it was a night just not about Virginia. It was a night about America. Have you heard from other members here? Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Minneapolis, Seattle, Texas. I'm not sure what the speaker will do. I know we're on break next week and she's off to another European trip. I think that would make 3 in 3 months. If I was a Democrat today, one thing I would sincerely know, there's going to be a lot of retirements, either before the election or in 370 days. If you do not change course, if you do not start listening to the public, if you do not understand the policies you are pushing or making prices more expensive, will be our most expensive Thanksgiving ever, that the gas and the price of gasoline is higher than we've watched in 7 years, and the answer from your party is begging OPEC to produce more instead of America solving their own problems. A border that's unsecure, with no attention, trillions of dollars you want to push with no money there to secure the border. And your education policy is to push the Attorney General to investigate parents. If you didn't know that was failed by the polling, if you didn't know that was a problem by the calls of Americans to your office, you should have woken up after last night, because it wasn't just in Virginia. Education is the great equalizer. We're all created equal, and we're going to make sure we make that happen across this country.
What role do you think Donald Trump played in last night's election results? This morning, the former president was on a conservative radio and said, he was responsible for the win. He took credit for the win in Virginia. But Youngkin kept Donald Trump at arm's length and focused on policy and not on Donald Trump. So, what's your assessment of the role that Trump played, if any?
My first was, I guess I can't be surprised the morning after Republicans win across the nation, the media wants to try to find division. I watched a Republican Party more united, more people joining it, based upon policy. Policy matters. And I think when you saw the last 10 months, the policy of the Democrats, I think people were open to trying to find something much better. And they've had that experience under a Republican majority and with President Trump in there. But I don't think after winning all these races, that's the question that would come before us. I think that's just another political ploy. Yeah.
Senator McCarthy, I know that you're saying that it's about the policy, but it's also about who's talking.
So a second question about Trump.
Well, it's about who's talking about the policy,
okay.
And he wasn't there in Virginia talking about it. So is it a sign that he's not essential for Republicans to win? You don't necessarily need him to have a successful night.
I don't know. Have you ever run for office?
No.
Okay, so your question is about Trump after we just held an election where inflation is higher than we've ever been apart. We have a president that shuts down a pipeline with American jobs losing more than 1 million, but allows Putin to produce 1. Where Putin is now bringing his own military to the border of Ukraine. We watched this president change by executive orders the border. The security is gone. We've watched parents come to school board meetings craving to have input. We watched Republican after Republican, one who only spent $200 to take down a sitting president of the Senate. This is about policy. If there's anything the press should learn, you should learn from Terry McAuliffe. All he talked about was Trump as well.
You say that policy matters, yet most of the things that you have talked about and your colleagues here have been about devolution, importance of local school boards, the DMV. So what does that have to do with Washington? How can Washington Republicans champion these things if what you're talking about are things at the local level, which is what you're...
All politics are local, but who was in Washington defending the parents? Who was in Washington questioning the Attorney General? Who was in Washington asking him to rescind going after the parents when we found out it was one letter from one organization? And they actually apologized after that hearing.
If education is going to be a top priority, top issue that you're going to be talking about heading into the midterms?
Oh, I think education is always a top priority, but I think the one thing you will find is the Republican Party will be the party of education.
Is that something that has been highlighted to you and something that you've learned from Youngkin and his playbook?
Have you spent any time with Virginia Fox or Elise or Congresswoman Letlow? Do you know what their life has been and what they experienced? This isn't the first time we've been fighting and talking about education, right?
Right.
This isn't the first time we've been offering legislation about it.
National climate, what do you think
What does this tell you about the depth of seats that you could target?
That's a good question. If I was in the Democratic conference today, and you want to sheerly look at it from a political science point of view, if you're a Democrat and President Biden won your seat by 16 points, you're in a competitive race next year. You are no longer safe. There's many that are going to lose their races based upon walking off a cliff from Nancy Pelosi pushing them. She may not care if she loses. She lost 63 the last time she was speaker, moving policy that the country didn't care for. Many believe she won't stay around, so is she going to be there to defend you? Are you going to bring President Biden in with his policies into your district to defend you? Are you going to bring the vice president in? Terry McAuliffe did, and look what happened to him.
Tonight, there were massive waves for Republicans in New Jersey, New York, obviously in Virginia. The last time that we saw some of these waves, in especially a state like New Jersey, was in 2019, and shortly after that, Representative Van Drew flipped from becoming a Democrat to becoming a Republican. Are you having any conversations with some of these moderate Democrats who are kind of on the cusp of potentially losing their seats next year to come on over, especially those 5 moderate Democrats who are in opposition to the reconciliation bill as it stands and don't seem to really fit in with the majority of their caucus anymore?
I remember sitting in this room one time and people kind of laughed at me when I said there were some Democrats who wanted to re-register Republican. And I believe the party is a big tent and everybody's welcome. Jeff Van Drew left a party that was in the majority and joined the minority. And he did it when the history was saying we were going to lose races and seats. And it was going to be competitive for him. He had a competitive race. But he did it because he said the party has left him. I think that discussion, and I know I've had that discussion with quite a few members on the other side. Don't be pushed to do something you don't believe in because the policies are wrong. You've been reluctant right now, but join with us. Our party is open to have other people join us.